Alright, so here we are today, and I am going to show you how to grow grass. In fact, the method I'm going to use is pretty much guaranteed to ensure that you're going to have a nice patch of grass once you're done here. And you can see here that I'm actually starting off on this particular piece of my lawn here. It's actually just a little side lawn. It's about 8 feet by 8 feet. And unfortunately I've neglected it. And so you can see here there's only a little bit of grass on the right hand side, but then on the majority of the rest of it is just barren dirt. And I neglected it by not watering it very well and not mowing it or doing anything really. And so I've decided to actually repair this. Now the method I'm actually going to show you today is not the cheapest method, but nor is it the most expensive method. But like I said, it's pretty much guaranteed to work. And I say that because I've tried it on other portions of my lawn, which actually looks great now. So before we actually get started, I do want to say that growing grass really involves 3 major steps. So step number 1 is actually prepping the soil. What you want to do is loosen the soil and make sure that there's a really good base for the seed to take effect. And then step 2, obviously, is actually laying down the seed. And there are a variety of things that you can do when you lay down the seed. I'm actually going to show you my method and show you what's special about it. And then obviously the third step here is actually watering. So you have to water the lawn on a very regular basis, or water the new seed on a very regular basis to ensure success. I'm not going to cover step 3 really today, but what I'm going to do is talk briefly about step number 1 and then also go into step number 2. So to get started, I want to show you the things that you're going to need for this. So first thing, you're going to need some sort of handheld tilling device and rake, and you're going to use the tilling device and the rake to soften up the soil in step 1, which is prepping the soil. The rake is also going to come in handy once you put the seed down and for post-seeding steps. And then for step 2 here, what you're going to need is some Scott's Easy Seed, as well as some grass seed, as well as some topsoil. So what I do is actually use a mixture of them, and I'll actually go in a little more details about that. But you're also going to want a bucket and some sort of mixing device or measuring cup so that you can mix them all together. And then what you may also want to get here, and I consider this optional depending on the conditions, or depending on the weather I should say, but you also may want to get some grass seeding mulch or hay mulch so that you can actually put that on top of the seed after you've put it on the ground. So we'll cover that a little bit later as well. But again, it's simple things that you need: some sort of tilling device and rake, seed and topsoil, as well as the Easy Seed product from Scott's, something to mix it all in, and then some hay mulch. Alright, so to get into step number 1 here, step number 1 really involves prepping the soil, and I think it's really important here that you do a good job in step number 1. I've already done some of this already on this particular piece of lawn, but what I've done is actually I've weeded everything. So I literally got on my hands and knees and removed all weeds that I had seen from the area. There was actually quite a number of weeds here, and I just pulled them out by hand. And then after that, once you've weeded everything, it's time for actually tilling. So I have this handheld tiller, and what I do here is actually put it into the ground and just push, not gently but firmly, so that the top inch of soil or so can actually soften up and get exposed. So what you want to do is, naturally lift out some of the soil from underneath that may be a little bit moist. You want to make sure there's a lot of air in the soil, so make sure that it's softened up so that when the seedlings germinate and actually grow roots, they actually have space that they can grow into, and that they're not encountering this tough pack of soil. So I'm going to go ahead and continue my tilling here. I've done it a little bit, but I'm going to do a little bit more to soften up a little more, and then I'll be back after that. Alright, so we're back after tilling, and I don't know if you can tell here from the image, but there's some lines that were created by my tilling, and the top layer of the soil now is actually nice and soft. I'll go ahead and bend down here so you can see here. Notice how easily the soil comes up into my hands and flows through my fingers. So it's nice and soft now. And one additional step that you can do after tilling is actually taking a metal rake and combing through or raking through any of the dead grass that may have come up during the tilling process. So you can see actually I have a little bit of dead grass in the soil, mixed into the soil. So I'm going to rake it a little bit. But you can choose to do this or you can choose to skip that step. If you have a lot of dead grass, then I would recommend that you remove that so it doesn't impede the new seeds or the seedlings when they germinate. But it's up to you. I would recommend that you do it though if you do have a lot of dead grass. Alright, so this is what a tilled piece of dirt looks like, and now what we're going to do is move on to step number 2. Alright, so now we're on to step number 2, which is actually putting seed into the ground. And before we do that, I'm actually going to cover why this particular step and my process is a little bit special. Now you may have discovered this yourself, so maybe it's not so special, but let me first start by saying that there are a number of ways that you can grow grass, right, or a number of ways that you can establish a lawn. One is just from pure seeding some soil and hoping that works. Another step, or another option here, which is probably the most expensive, is putting down sod, which can be pretty pricey depending on the price of the sod that you get. And of course, there's things in between or in the middle that you can do as well with varying success. For me, what I found that has worked best is creating a mixture of Scott's Easy Seed as well as regular seed and topsoil. And what I'm going to do today is actually show you that mixture, how I mix it together, and then how I put it into the ground. So before I actually show you the mixture here and tell you the proportions that I use, some of you may be asking, well, why not just use regular seed, or why not just use Easy Seed? What I found that is that if you use regular seed, sure, you could potentially be successful, but depending on the quality of your soil, you may not have a lot of good nutrients in the soil, and so the growth of the seeds may be sporadic or inconsistent. And then, if you choose to just use Easy Seed instead of anything else, I find that the Easy Seed product actually does not come with enough seed. I've used it before, and I've noticed that the growth is also extremely inconsistent or sporadic. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes when it does work, it's very patchy, if you would. So it doesn't yield the results that you would actually want it to yield. So what I've come up with instead is actually mixing the Easy Seed with grass seed. So basically what I'm doing is leveraging the nutrients that are in the Easy Seed combo as well as the mulch that's in the Easy Seed combo. I'm supplementing the seed that is in there right now, the actual grass seed, with additional grass seed. And then I'm actually mixing it all together with some topsoil as well. And the reason why I mix it with topsoil is for consistency, as well as to basically stretch out what I have, right? If I just went with pure Easy Seed and grass seed, it could be quite a bit expensive in order to cover the amount of square footage that I want. But if I mix in some topsoil, I'll be able to actually cover a little more ground, yet also produce effective results. So what we're going to do here is actually mix all three together, and in the next step here, I'll actually show you the proportions that I use. Okay, so I've actually started the mixing a little bit. As you can see here, I'm using a container here to mix everything together, and what I've done here is I've put in about 1/3 of a bag of topsoil. Now, the bag of topsoil that I use is actually a 40-pound bag, as you can see. So if you do the math here, putting in 1/3 of that, so maybe about 12-13 pounds of topsoil are going to go into this bucket. And what I've done is I actually have this measuring cup. It's actually a 2-liter measuring cup, and I've already put in 2 liters of the Easy Seed product. I'm actually going to put in another liter. So basically 1/3 of topsoil plus roughly 3 liters of the Easy Seed combo. Okay, so let me look in here. You can see the Easy Seed sitting on top of the topsoil here. And then now I'm actually going to mix in the grass seed as well. Okay, so now I'm going to add in a liter of the Scott's grass seed into my mixture here. So that's going to be added on top of all that. Okay, so let me look in there. You can see that. And what I'm going to do is actually mix it all up with a little handheld spade here. So got this. I'm just going to go ahead and mix that. What you want to do is mix it so it's thoroughly mixed together. Sometimes the topsoil that you may actually have chunks like this. You'll actually want to break up those chunks. Yeah, and just make sure that the whole mixture here is blended in well. So you get this combination of topsoil, the Easy Seed combination mulch seed and fertilizer product, as well as just the regular seed here. Alright, so a couple of things here before I go off camera and do that mixing. You know, right now it's actually Labor Day weekend in the Northeast. I don't know if you noticed here, but The grass seed that I'm using is a Scott's grass seed Northeast mix. So I actually live in the Northeast, and like I said, it's Labor Day, and this is actually probably an ideal time to grow grass. The reason why I say that is because in the fall you have a good combination of soil temperature, and you also have the fall rain, right? So those are really good conditions for germination, and you should get germination, or you should start to see seedlings come up in about a week, if not maybe even actually a little bit less. But the fall is good because the heat of the summer is already gone. It's past. The nights are cool. In fact, even the days could be potentially cool depending on exactly where you live. And like I said, the ground temperature is actually really conducive to germination. Some people like to seed in the spring, and I would say that that works as well, but perhaps not quite as well, just because in the spring it's kind of tricky because you have to wait until the ground has softened up and de-thawed and warmed up, and germination may actually take a little bit longer, or your germination rates may not be as successful in the spring. But certainly you can do it in the spring. I've done this process in the spring as well and have been successful, but it's all about catching it at the right time. I think if you do it in the fall, though, you're more likely to be successful just because of all the weather conditions. Alright, so anyway, back to my mixture here, and I'm going to go ahead and mix this up, and then be back when I'm back. I'll actually show you how I put this on the actual soil that I tilled in step number 1. Okay, so I am done now mixing together the topsoil plus easy seed plus regular grass seed combination. And if I get in a little bit closely here, you can see that there's a good distribution of actual seed, as well as some brown granules, which is actually part of the easy seed product, as well as some dirt, or topsoil I should say. So once you've mixed it thoroughly together, you're actually good to go. And just a reminder to everyone, right, yeah, sure, I could have put just regular seed onto my soil here, but like I said, depending on the condition of your soil, there may not be a lot of good nutrients in the soil. So this is why I actually create this combination. Basically what I'm doing is taking some topsoil, mixing in seed, but then in order to enhance the mixture here and to make sure there's a lot of good nutrients in, I'm putting the easy seed product in as well. And like I said earlier, I'm not using just easy seed because I've noticed that it's not very consistent and doesn't grow a lot of grass. Instead, I'm actually using that combination of easy seed plus regular seed. So in order to spread this out onto the soil, basically I use this handheld spade, and all I'm going to do here is actually just put in a thin layer here of the seed, and you can see here the coverage there that I've got. Actually, I'm going to do maybe a little bit thicker there, and I just try to distribute it evenly and then pat it down a little bit. One step after this is actually applying another layer of just regular topsoil on top of all this to hold the seed in place, especially if it rains. And so I'll be covering that in a little bit, but when you do this, I would say don't worry about patting it down too much, because you are going to put a layer of topsoil on top of this. Just go ahead and distribute the mixture here evenly onto the soil that you're looking to cover, and just make sure that some of these clumps here that may be a part of the topsoil get broken up a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do this, and I'll be back once I'm done with this particular patch. Alright, I'm back, and as you can see here, I'm done putting the mixture of easy seed, topsoil, and regular grass seed on my patch of dirt here. And you can see there's a reddish hue, and that reddish hue is actually coming from the mulch mixture that's in the easy seed. So let me actually get down a little bit closer here, and you can see the seed distribution is actually pretty good. You can see that there's quite a number of seeds evenly, or somewhat evenly, mostly evenly distributed across the ground here. And as I get closer here, you can actually see that there's just a nice layer that's sitting on top of the soil right now that I had softened up in step number 1. So when you're done doing this, it's good to actually put on top another layer of topsoil. So just regular topsoil, about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch, sitting on top of all this to hold the seed down in place, and also give it some moisture coverage on top. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Like I said, I'm just going to put some topsoil on. But before I do that, I should note that earlier when you saw me create the mixture of topsoil, easy seed, and regular grass seed, I was mixing that into a bucket. And to cover this 8-foot by 8-foot patch here, what I had to do was mix about 2.5 buckets of that combination and put it on. So I used about an entire bag of topsoil to do that. and of course the required amounts of easy seed and regular grass seed. So in case you're at home, you're trying to figure out how much you need, or in case you were wondering whether or not I just used 1 bucket to cover this area, I actually had to use 2.5. Alright, so I'm going to go off and put some topsoil on, and I'll be back when I'm done. In case you're wondering actually how to put the topsoil on, let me actually show you a quick video of that, or a quick clip of that. Basically, I take out the topsoil and I just put it into clumps all along the soil that I just seeded, and I take my rake here that I showed to you earlier, and what I'll do is actually just rake it out. So what I'll do is gently rake out the soil, and like I said, you want about 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch of soil left on top. And the important thing here is that you should also try to break up the clumps that are there. So what I do is I just flip the rake over and I stamp it down. I may actually just walk on top of all of this too when I'm done. So that enables or ensures that the topsoil actually sits firmly in place on top of the seed. I wouldn't be too concerned about putting too much pressure on. I think it's going to be fine. It will loosen up and it'll settle in a little bit as you water everything, so it's quite alright. But like I said, use a rake, spread it out thinly, make sure any clumps are broken up, and tamp it down a little bit. Alright, so the top soil has been put down now. You can see there's a small layer, or a thin layer I should say, of topsoil sitting on top of the seed mixture that I put down. That's why you can see a little bit of the red seed mixture poking through. Ideally, I would actually have a slightly thicker layer of topsoil sit on top, but I actually ran out of topsoil, so I spread it as much as I could. And the next step now, moving on to step 3, is watering. So what we want to do now is water all this and make sure that the seed actually gets wet here. So I'm going to go ahead and take my hose and water it. Now what you want to do is just make sure that the water seeps through and it's nice and evenly spread across everything that you put down, or across the entire area. And I'm actually going to water twice. So I'm watering once right now to get everything wet and make sure that it's moist, and then I'm going to be putting down the hay mulch that I showed earlier. Once I put the hay mulch down, I'm going to water it one more time to actually hold the hay mulch down. So there's going to be basically 2 waterings, but this watering I think is the most important one, because what you want to do, like I said, is make sure that the seeds are entering a moist environment. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this watering, and then we'll be back to put the hay mulch on. Okay, so the last step in this process now is to put some of this hay mulch down that I was referring to. You can see here I've got a bag of it. You can get this at any local garden center or hardware store. Typically they'll sell it in the spring and the fall, but what you want to do is reach down, grab a handful here, and basically lightly spread it on top of the area that you had just seeded. You can see here I'm just putting a very thin layer on. Maybe this is actually a little bit too thick. What you want to make sure here is that you cover it, but you actually don't want to smother it too much. As the seedlings germinate and grow, they're going to need sunlight, of course. So you don't want to cover it too much so that the seedlings don't get any sunlight. But as you can see here, I'm just kind of putting in a light layer here. So you're going to want to do this for the entire area that you seeded. Now, this is an optional step, though, I should say. I do this because this area, even though it looks like it's surrounded by trees, actually does get quite a bit of sunlight, and so it dries out quite easily and very quick. So in order to maximize moisture content in the soil, I put this hay mulch down. Actually, a friend of mine gave me this trick, or this little tip, and what the hay mulch does is it acts as a barrier, so it helps keep the moisture in the soil so that when the sun's beating down on it, it doesn't evaporate out as quickly. So like I said, this is the last step. Once you put down the hay mulch, if you do decide to do this, you're going to want to actually water it so that the hay mulch kind of stays down. And of course, when you water on a regular basis, it'll just stay down. And I should also note that this hay mulch does degenerate or degrade over time, so it eventually does go away. And when the grass comes up, you actually won't see it. Alright, so this is the last step, like I said, and what I'm going to do next here is finish putting down the hay mulch, and I'm going to check back on a regular basis, so probably once every 2-3 days or so, and hopefully you'll be able to see, along with me, the progress of the seeds, and hopefully we'll be able to catch them germinating and then growing taller and taller. But for now, we're all set, we're all done. So I hope you enjoyed watching this, and please stay tuned for more clips as we see the seeds germinate. Alright, welcome back everyone. Today is Saturday, which is exactly 7 days or a week from the day that I actually put down the seed, so earlier in the clip. So as you can see here, the seedlings actually have started to sprout. So let me get closer to the ground so you guys can see this here. There you go. Get in focus there. You can see it's coming up, perhaps somewhat consistently, but it's okay. It's only been 7 days, so I expect this to actually fill in a little bit more, and hopefully we'll be able to see the grass grow taller and also see more seedlings come in. So I have been watering this twice a day, except for the days when it's been raining. So I water it once before work and once coming home after work. And as you can see, it's been going pretty well. So we'll check in again in a few more days. Alright, welcome back. So today is Friday, and it's exactly 13 days after we had put down the seed. And I want to show you how the progress was coming along. Let me take a step back here. You can see that quite a bit of grass is now showing. It's pretty green here. I'll get down a little bit closer now again, just like I did last time. And you can see we've got grass here. They're probably about an inch and a half high. So seedlings are coming in well, and it's not perfect. You can definitely see that it's coming in patchy, but again, it's only been 2 weeks or less than 2 weeks, so I expect that this will be even better um, as the time goes on. So anyway, I think so far I'm quite pleased with the progress, and again, I'll check back in a few more days so that you can see how well it's doing.